Schedule, routine, or flow? How does our homeschool day work? Hi, my name is Jennifer. Thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it. On my channel, we talk about all things homeschool. And today I want to talk about how our homeschool day works. Now, I do have a fifth grader, and we just are enjoying this ride. For me to explain how our homeschool day works, then there are a few things that I really think that you need to know. Number one, my daughter is an only child. Number two, we live in an extremely rural area, which means that there are not a huge amount of extracurricular activities that we can really be involved in. There's not a homeschool co-op. There's not a lot of sports. There's not a lot of social gatherings, so you really have to be intentional with finding those types of activities. So that's number two. And number three, I work. So I do have a job outside of homeschool. So those are things that we need to talk about how our day works. But I wanted to talk about schedule versus routine versus flow. And so in my true fashion, I had to look up what each one of those meant with regards to work so that I could make sure that I was explaining or using the right terminology when I explained what we do. So a schedule is more of you start at this time, you end at this time, you do, lunch is at a certain time. So a schedule is a lot more what you would see in a normal school setting. You have the different things that have to be done at certain times. So that's a schedule. A routine is much more of you have certain things that need to be done and you're going to do them one right after another, but there's not necessarily a specific time for each one of those to take place. And then a flow is more of you're going to get things done and it's just going to flow as it needs to, right? So we are primarily number two. We're primarily a routine family. And so what we do, the way our homeschool routine takes place is I do have sections blocked off, and I'll walk through these a little bit, but there's no specific time for these to start and for each of the sections to start and stop, with the exception of the start time. So on Monday through Thursday, my daughter gets up at 8:30, and so then we start our day very shortly after 8:30. On Friday is her sleep-in day, and so therefore she sleeps in. So now I am not an early riser by any stretch of the imagination, so I don't really get up that much earlier than she does. Maybe like a half an hour to an hour before she does. But I am much more of a night person, so I am staying up much later than she does to get ready for the next day and to have my quiet time, my time for me to relax and reflect and plan. So again, I get up about 7:30. She wakes up about 8:30, and then we start our day with what we call our documentary and reading. And so that we are watching a documentary. Currently, we're doing The Imagineers on Disney Plus. We're having a great time with that documentary. Each documentary is about an hour long. And so what we do is we do about 10 minutes to 15 minutes every weekday. For that, we have this while we're eating breakfast, and we're just enjoying the Imagineers. And then we do our read aloud immediately thereafter, and that normally takes about another 15 to 20 minutes. So by 9:15-ish, between 9 and 9:15, we are finished with our downstairs, and it's time to come upstairs, but my daughter likes to have a break. So she takes about 15-minute to half an hour break. At that point, she plays with the dog. She, just kind of wakes up a little bit more, or, just does her own thing for 15 minutes to half an hour. And then we start in our school, which is our second section. And this is our independent box, Bible prayer pledges, and then our basket activities. The independent box is really what she is doing independently, and I'll link that video up here where it talks about the choices that she is making, and that box is going pretty well. We're still tweaking it a little bit, but we kind of get bogged down here because she enjoys these activities so much that it's taking longer for her to do them than what I anticipated, but they're ones that she's just enjoying. So this is really is really hard to say how long this section is going to take, because it could be 15 minutes. Sometimes though it's an hour for this section, and that is because she's enjoying what she's doing. So we do, it's just some fun activities that she does. And so that's that section. Well, now we're up to section 3, which is math, Spanish, and our language arts. Well, normally we do math first, then Spanish, and then language. Now, there may be some times where that's switched, but we always try to keep Spanish in the middle. So sometimes it's language, Spanish, math. And this really gets us to about 11:30, sometimes 12 o'clock, but sometimes right around 11:30. Well, then we have to take this break because I work. And so I have things that I have to do around 11:30 to 12 o'clock. And so that is another break that she has where she doesn't really want to work independently. So she basically does some gymnastics. She has lunch, and she, again, plays with the dog. She may read a book during this time if she wants to, but that's really up to her. And so then in the afternoon, we have history, geography, and science, and then poetry, special projects, and cleanup. And so what our day can be anywhere from starting at 8:30, taking, stopping for lunch about 11:30, and then picking back up about 12:30, 1 o'clock, and ending by 3. We almost always end by 3. Not always, but we almost always end by 3. And so therefore, our day really does seem quite long, but there are so many breaks throughout the day that when we put all of the hours together, we really are about 4 hours a day, sometimes less than that. But keep in mind, when I mentioned at the beginning that she is an only child, that means that I am one of the main people that she interacts with, one of the main people that she talks to. So throughout the day, there are quite a few times where we just stop and chat. And we may be chatting about school. We may be chatting about what's going on in her life. We may be chatting about plans that we have coming up. We may be chatting about something that she read in a DK book. We may be chatting about, what we're having for dinner. So that, when I get the question about how long does school take, it is an extremely difficult question for me to answer because it is such it's peaks and valleys. Sometimes we're busy and sometimes we're not, and it's hard to say exactly how long just the school takes because there's so many other factors. She does take gymnastics, and so on one day a week, we have to make sure that we're at gymnastics at the appropriate time. And then on those days, maybe We may do school later, but we really try to make sure that it's already completed before we leave for gymnastics. So it's just the other thing is when we have the opportunity to have those play dates, when we have the opportunity to do the sports, when we have the opportunity to do those things, those really do become a priority because they are not available all the time. So I've said all of this to say, make your homeschool your own. Do what works for you. There is no way that my homeschool is going to look like your homeschool. We have different children. We have different lives. We have different personalities. We have different interests, and we have different needs. So your homeschool needs to be uniquely yours and do truly what works the best for your family. You know, if I was to think about it and someone was to tell me that their homeschool lasted from 8:30 in the morning to 5 or 6 p.m. sometimes, I'd be like, oh my gosh, that's such a long day. But when I think about our homeschool lasting that long, you have to take into account that maybe that morning she took a half an hour to play with the dog in the morning. It took a whole hour doing gymnastics while she was talking to me about her life. And then she had, lunch. And oh, by the way, I got off track because I got a phone call for work and that took me another hour. And then she spent 45 minutes talking to one of her friends on the phone. So it's just one of those things where I want to encourage you to have your homeschool be your own. If you can get it done and everyone's happy with 1 to 2 hours, then that's wonderful. If yours is spread out throughout the day and that's how it needs to be, then that's wonderful. But it can be your own. And I think that is one of the beauties about homeschool. So I hope that this has encouraged you. And if you have any questions, please let me know down in the comments. I'd be happy to answer them to the best of my ability. I'm really enjoying getting to know you through YouTube. I do think this is an amazing platform. I'm so thankful for the people who I have been able to really interact with and get to know. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it. If you're not subscribed, please do so. It really helps me out. I hope that you have a great day. Bye.